Welcome to the Dibley Diaries for this week. This week we're going to be thinking about the story in Luke 17 about Jesus healing 10 people with leprosy, and then only one coming back to say thank you. Anyone coming back to say thank you. And I've been thinking this week about our views on this as church communities, especially in rural church communities where we have often received large donations, really important donations in the past, which have really transformed the work of the church, and we are very grateful for them indeed. And I don't want to encourage people, especially vicars, to be hunting for legacies in people's wills. We don't want to be doing that at all. I know some vicars who have been accused of that, but what we do want to do is to say thank you if someone is generous, but we need to be really careful that we are not changing our policies or our practices because that person has either given a big one-off generous donation or has made other donations. We need to be really careful about that, because it is tempting that if somebody gives a serious amount of money, for people to say, well, actually, we can't change this because it would upset so-and-so who was so generous. We need to really think about that and to say thank you that you've given us such a generous donation, but really be careful not to be biased towards that person or to treat them differently because they've given us a large donation. For those who've given large donations, we are truly thankful, but also we need to make sure we're not biased towards their way of thinking in the future necessarily, if it's not for the good of the whole church community. Thought for the week this week is has got two stories about response to generosity in them, and the first one is the gospel story. So the gospel story is about 10 people who have leprosy. They're kind of gang together to support each other. They shout out and beg Jesus to heal them. Jesus heals them, and he sends them to the priests to check that the leprosy has gone. That is something which I'm really pleased has been taken out of priestly duties. I do not have to check anybody's skin diseases, and that's not in the contemporary priest requirements of service. However, at that time that's what they did. They went to the priests declared that they were well. 9 of the 10 ran off and went home, presumably to their families, to their friends, to talk about the fact that they had been healed. One of them, just one of them, went back to Jesus to give thanks for the transformation in their life, to go back and give thanks for this transformation. The other story we have is about Naaman. It's way back from the stories of Kings. So Naaman is a foreign commander who was part of a victorious army against the ancient Israelites, and Naaman develops leprosy, and his wife has an enslaved Israelite child, a girl who works for her. This little girl, whose name we do not know, says to Naaman, oh, you need to go back to Israel for that. They will sort this out. And Naaman goes. This grand commander of a foreign army goes, and he sees the king of Israel, and the king of Israel's really upset, because he's like, how are we going to sort this out? This is a big problem. Sends him to Elisha, the prophet, or kind of, Naaman ends up at Elisha. And Elisha doesn't even come out, sends a messenger to say wash in the Jordan. Naaman has a kind of bit of a hissy fit at this point, but one of his advisors talks him down and says, look, if you'd been asked to do something really difficult, you would have done it. Let's just go bathe in the Jordan. And Naaman is healed, and he goes back to Elisha and acknowledges that God has transformed his life. That God has transformed his life. He can't quite bring himself to say thank you. He just says that the Israelite God is the only God. It's kind of a thank you. It's certainly an acknowledgement of the transforming power of God in his life. In our culture, we are sometimes very proud and not good at receiving generosity from others, and then we miss the opportunity to be thankful. And the pride can be a difficult thing. I mean, years ago there was that scene in Father Ted where Mrs. Doyle and her friend are at the tea shop, and they argue so much about who is going to be generous and pay the bill that they end up getting arrested. But sometimes people are reluctant to receive generous things, and that is not good. That's not what the biblical examples are. The biblical examples are that we should be receiving generosity. We should be receiving generosity. So, in this kind of harvest set of weeks about giving thanks and being grateful and being generous, I just wanted us to think for a moment, who is it who has been generous to us? Who is it who has transformed our lives with generosity? Who is it who has transformed our lives with generosity? There is something innately human, because we are made in the image of God, that we love to watch people's lives being transformed with generosity. We love to watch DIY SOS because we know that people are giving their time, all their skills to transform someone's life from one place to another place. One family's life is being utterly transformed by the actions of these volunteers. And it moves us. It moves us because God is generous. God is generous. And we're made in his image, and we are made to be generous too. We are made to be transformationally generous too. So who is it who has transformed our lives with generosity? We need to give thanks for those people. And who are we being challenged to be generous to? Whose lives can we change with our generosity? Whose lives can we change with our generosity? Those are the challenges that I want us to think about today. Who do we need to give thanks for and acknowledge that their generosity has changed our lives? And who do we need to be generous to so that our generosity can transform their lives? And we need to do this because we're made in God's image, and generosity is all part of being that in the image of God and showing God's generosity. The Dibley moment of the week this week is something which used to happen in a church attended by a friend of mine. There were quite a few reformed characters in that congregation, people who had previously been very good at removing things from people's pockets. These people were redeployed in order to insert things into people's pockets, maybe some money and a little note, because we all know that people are proud and don't want to receive generosity. So these people would go home and find that they had received a generous gift, and it was a surprise for them. And that's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week where you can be generous and receive generosity thankfully.